Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Christian Peverelli, co-founder of We Are No Code. And this is Behind the Movement, where we talk about tech, we talk about no code, we talk about entrepreneurship, and we discover everything that's behind this awesome new trend of the solo, non-technical entrepreneur. Today, I have this totally awesome guest here today. His name is JJ Englert, and he's so many different things. I don't even know where to start. He is a no-code master. He started out in the film industry as a director and as a producer. He jumped into technology where he became a serial entrepreneur. He's also an incredible marketer. JJ, thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a very kind intro. Yeah, I'm looking to this episode, so thanks for having me.
Of course, no, it's an honor to have you, and I can't wait to tell your story to all these lovely folks. So let's start off with just, earlier on, you kind of told me the story about when you were a kid and you saw some early signs of entrepreneurship. Why don't you tell the audience that story? Because I found it awesome.
Yeah, so I've always loved building businesses or bringing ideas to life. And I also came from a middle class family where money was very tight. And if I wanted anything extra, I'd need to find out how to get that money to buy that. Money wasn't just given to me in a lot of different ways. And so it started very early, I think as early as the fourth grade, where my dad belonged to a wholesale club. And I'd say, "Hey, Dad, can you buy me this candy?" And he'd bring home like a pack of 10 or 20. And then I'd bring it to school, put it in my locker and sell it. And then I'd be able to bring kids over to my locker and say, "Hey, check it out," and make money that way. And so that was, I guess, just the start of just knowing that I had an inner drive in me that I just wanted to build things and sell things. And the idea of making money through this was exciting.
That's so cool. Yeah. And so, yeah, as I mentioned, like so many questions come through my mind when I hear that story. First of all, how did the principal see that? They must have thought you were dealing drugs or something. And then why did your dad not question the fact that you were ordering like pounds and pounds of this
I
candy?
think he eventually caught on, but I got away with it for a while. Let's just say that.
That's hilarious. And hey, that's probably the first story of your entrepreneurship life that led you to a great career in entrepreneurship as well. I want to start off by kind of learning about the story of you going from being sort of this creative, this person from the film industry, director, producer, and how you kind of transitioned from there into tech, and why as well, right? Because a lot of artists don't necessarily thrive to be technologists.
Yeah, so I always wanted to build things, but I didn't have any kind of math or science background, engineering. I didn't know how to really do anything. I couldn't code. And so one day I was watching a movie, 7 Pounds, and it brought huge emotions to me. And I was just like, this is incredible. What if I could bring these feelings to someone else? And then I also had the epiphany of like, hey, like I could bring my ideas to life through this medium as well. I could write it down on paper and capture it on a camera and bring this idea to life. And I really just got addicted at that point. And so my next move was like, okay, well, how can I make this happen? What film school can I go to? And I ended up moving out to California. I went to a fantastic film school. I made a ton of films in film school. And quickly after film school, I launched my own production company where I was making music videos, commercials, and feature films. I think about 2 years into that production company, I was hiring like about 300 filmmakers each year, contractors, independent film crews. So makeup artists, gaffers, electricians. Each of my videos maybe had 20 to 30 crew members on set. And it was this crazy thing where maybe I was doing 3, 4 videos a month, and every video maybe was like a 1 or 2 day shoot. I would hire 20 to 30 people, right? I'd onboard them, we'd shoot the film, I'd pay them, and then the next video, I would hire another 20 to 30 people. And it just kept going on and off. And so it got to a point where if my regulars were busy, I couldn't find a film crew to hire. Right. And the film industry is a very like personal, like who do you know, referral based system. And at the time, there was no real online platform that you can turn to hire professional people that you trust. There were job boards and whatnot, but there was no trust there. As a working producer in the industry, I really wanted to know that the person that I brought on that I could trust. And so that's what led me to tech for the first time. I was like, well, what if I just build a very simple database? I had background in like building WordPress websites and stuff, like very simple. Like, what if I could find someone to build me a database that was a little bit more complex than WordPress, that could scale to maybe 5, 10, 20,000 users, right? And build a database where not only in Los Angeles, but if I went to San Francisco, I could find local film crew there, or if I went to Portland, etc. So I started to, and I didn't know anything about tech. I knew nothing, right? So I didn't even know where to find a developer. So I asked everybody that I knew. I was like, hey, do you know a developer, right? And I eventually landed on this one person. Was like, hey, I grew up with this person. He was hacking things since he was 10. He's the best developer I know, right? Long story short, he ended up being an ex-Microsoft developer working at Microsoft, and he came and I got connected with him, and I was like, hey, can you build this for me? He's like, oh, MVP, yeah, I can build it for you. I showed him the scope of what I wanted. He's like, yeah, we could probably do this for like 50 to 60 grand. And I was like, shoot, that's a lot more than I was thinking, but let me see if I can get the money. So that led me to tech, and that was my first company, IndustryJump, and a tech company, right? And when I started IndustryJump, I was just like, this is going to be a side thing, right? Just going to be a filmmaker still. This is just a tool that I'm doing on the side to see if maybe I can position myself as like supplemental income or just whatever going forward. But the more I got into IndustryJump, also the more I got addicted to it. I just loved the process of having these wireframes and then bringing and building designs and mock-ups and then testing them with your users and getting this product live. And it was just so exciting. And I also love the fact of when you build or when you make a movie, usually that person watches it once, right? And then they're done with it. They don't really watch it again. But with tech, they could come back every day and you could have a bigger influence on that person and really maybe change lives if we're really lucky, or really at least help someone improve their lives or efficiency or whatever. And so I really love that. Um, but I also got really into it in the sense that, we're like 5, 6 months into the build. We're already near that 50 to $60,000 spend, and the product still isn't live. Matter of fact, the product is like barely there. And I think a lot of it was me as a first time non-technical founder. I had scope creep. I had all these things get into it that I had no idea about. Right. And so it led me down this route of like, well, if I want to finish it, which I've already invested 50 to $60,000 into, I got to finish it. Maybe I'm going to need another 50 to 60,000. Right. So how can I find that? Uh, Cut to the long story short, I raised angel investment, put a small team together, and 2 years later, I launched a product, a full scale enterprise system. And
Wow.
I launched it, without payments included, like a very simple version. Um, and and then I spent the next year as a non-technical founder trying to figure out how to move faster, right? How to make money, how to run a business. But as a non-technical founder, I was always so limited in so many ways. Like I had so many ideas and I wanted to do it myself, but I couldn't. And so I ended up being a product manager instead of really just running the business, mostly because we were so focused on getting the technology to work because we couldn't even get the technology to work to the point where we could get the business to work, you know? And it led me down that journey. And I could keep on going and transition to Jump Studio, or I could pause.
I love that. I mean, first of all, you're literally like a jumping advertisement for what we do at We Are No Code, because like I had that exact same experience where I was like running this accelerator program. I had very much gone through down the road of like, yeah, like being the product manager, and managing developers, and kind of then
Yeah,
like for other projects hiring overseas, facing those issues. And when I got and saw that this was a much larger problem on a much larger level, I realized like,
yeah,
man, something has to happen so that these people are not just building products, but are building businesses, first of all, and then
yeah,
also like leveraging ways to essentially do that more effectively.
right.
I think, wow, your story is really, really interesting because I kind of had a very similar story, totally different, right?
Yeah.
But I think that like,
It's a tough story.
yeah, and it is right, like because when you look at that, and I also raised capital because
Hmm.
you need to hire expensive people, you need to raise
Right.
capital, and I think that like for me, it was just that feeling of like, well, what are the consequences when someone like let's say spends, because you were like on the good side of that experience where like at least you got a product out after 2 years, but it still
Yeah.
took 2 years. And a lot of
Yeah.
people that I was seeing were spending 1 or 2 years and like, $100,000, $50,000, $30,000 with not much to show for it. So
Yeah.
I think that and what happens after that, right? What happens when someone fails? They start
Hmm.
thinking maybe entrepreneurship's not for me. And we're
Yeah.
literally missing out on gems all over the world that have tried entrepreneurship one, they kind of got burnt because they were inexperienced, and then they
Yeah.
just quit. And I think that that's really sad because it can lead to like much worse things on an individual level. But then also,
Yeah.
what is it doing on a larger level to kind of like innovation, to art, to all these other kind of endeavors, right? People
Yeah.
talk about like failing quick, and this is probably a perfect transition to kind of going into like no code, because after IndustryJump, which is still running right
Yeah.
now,
It's still active.
like you built JumpStudios, and
Hmm.
you took a dramatically different approach to building that company. Wink, wink, no code, guys. Why don't you bring us down that journey and kind of tell us like how you got into it, and then
Yeah.
we'll take it from there, because that there's a lot to dig into, with regard to no code, but also like just with regard to that kind of like juxtaposition, or that the difference between those two experiences. So run me
Yeah.
how you discovered no code, how you got into like building JumpStudios. Tell the
Hmm.
folks obviously what JumpStudio is,
Hmm.
and we'll take
Yeah.
it from there.
So it took 2 years to really get Industry Jump going with that product to market, right? We had to raise more capital to get there. So, and all said and done, we got, I would say, like 70% of our original idea to market, and it took us 2 years and $200,000 we spent, right? So we got it to market, and we started building users one at a time. So we're up to 5,000 users now, 5,000 filmmakers on the platform. And during that time, we were building Instagram and everything. And that's how I learned how to market, because I needed to. I was just forced to, So we've been building an Instagram presence for 3 years now. We're up to like 57,000 followers, and learn from that. And that's how we kind of grew our following. But to get to the no code space, so when COVID hit, at the time, remember I said we only had like 70% of our product to market. When COVID hit, the only part of our product that we had to market was our job marketplace, where you could hire filmmakers and whatnot. And all the jobs went away overnight. They just like vanished. And the
Oh my
film industry
god.
was just shut down. And at that time, we weren't even making much. We weren't making money because we couldn't even get to the point where we could build out our Stripe subscription platform to make money from it. We had our job board live. We had like maybe a couple hundred jobs a month. So we were actually getting it, and we were starting to get something, right? But we were also at the very end of our financing. We're just about out of money, and then COVID hit. And so our jobs went out overnight. We ran out of money to pay our developers, and the platform sat like static, or just didn't. I couldn't do anything with the platform. I still can't do anything with the platform because I don't know how to build 8 different languages: .NET, Angular, JavaScript, C Sharp. I don't know all that, and I wish I did. And so I spent the first 3 months of COVID like in worry mode. I was like, what am I going to do? I just spent 2 years, 2.5 years of my life building this. And now I have no money to do this. And we have a good company. We have a good community. We have a lot of potential. I feel like we're so close to getting to something, to maybe start making money and start getting into more sustainable path. But I know in order to continue that I either have to build this myself, or we need to raise a lot more money. And I was like, right now, it's going to be impossible for us to raise more money because we don't have any revenue. All of our jobs just went away, and it's a team of one, which is me, and it's a global pandemic where
Mhm.
everybody is scared, you know, uh, and just holding on to their money. So I was like, I need to learn how to code, but I was way too scared. Like I I was so scared to do it, and so I didn't. And I took like a month off from the business, like totally off. And during that time, I kept seeing bubble ads, and I was just like, maybe if there's a quicker way to learn coding, I could do this. Because I can't learn all this full stack, like that's just gonna take me years. I can't do that. But if there's a quicker way to taking over and building myself, maybe I could do it. And started looking into bubble, like the Airbnb builds and the marketplace builds and all this stuff. I was like, this seems quite interesting. Like maybe I could do this. And then one day Udemy launched a discount. It was like $15 for the bubble course with Greg, right?
Mhm.
And I was like, I got to try it. It's $15. What can I hurt? And I took the first class, the Udemy class, And I went to my wife that night. I was like, I got to finish this. I got to finish this course. I don't know where it's going to get me, but something's telling me that I got to do this, and something's telling me that this is my last hope for this company,
Hmm.
right? If I don't do this, I think we have to close the doors. And so I spent the next 2 months doing the class, and I was very clear about setting time aside and really studying and really like
Hmm.
taking it very seriously.
Very seriously, yeah.
And maybe like a couple like episodes into it, I actually just started getting addicted. But it was so hard. It's like, man, this is so difficult, but I also just solved this. And so it was just like that thing of like, I don't know if I could do this, but I just did it. And then I don't know if I could do this, but I just did it. And that led me down my no code path, right?
I
2 months
love that.
into it, I finished the course. I finished the first task builder app. And I had this confidence for the first time as a founder that like, I think I can control my path forward as a non-technical founder with no code. And that is what really ignited me. And that's what transitioned me to Jump Studios.
I love that. I love that. And that's really what the power is. It's not necessarily, yes, the tools are incredibly powerful, but it's in this idea that like it's in this idea of self-reliance. It's in this idea of like empowerment, like actually feeling like for the first time you can take actions that
Yeah.
will define the future for
Yeah.
you, like, and you don't necessarily need to depend on others. I love that.
Right.
And so tell us about some of the other tools. You've
Yeah.
learned several other tools, including some of our favorites at We Are No Code, like Webflow, like
Hmm.
Airtable. Like, tell us about like, was it then just a rabbit hole for you? You just like said, you know what, I love this one. I know I can do it. I'm also like, I do I do marketing now as well because I
Yeah.
picked up this skill.
Yeah.
And yeah, tell us about that path.
So when COVID hit, job board went down. I had to transition away from IndustryJump full time, which I was working full time, and I picked up a job as a digital marketer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was building their websites in Wix, and then I also started to build their lead funnels. And so I put together a lead funnel in Typeform, Zapier to an email campaign, which is Zoho. And I built a funnel which would classify people to see like if they would be a good fit for a product or not. And if so, they would go this way. And if not, they'd go this way. At the same time, I also restructured all of their SEO and the website development. They were getting zero organic traffic. It was all paid ads, which we were spending about $10,000 a month in paid ads. I rebuilt that and was managing that as well. Right. And so I had a full, for the first time, I had the time to sit down and really learn digital marketing with paid marketing, SEO, lead generation. Um, and Zapier and Typeform and all these other things really came natural to me. I always was building on WordPress, and Wix came really easy. And so a year later, those lead funnels right now, they find us. Well, first, our organic traffic in the last year, it went from 0 to about 6,000 organic traffic a month right now. We have about 35 page Google first results, and then about 70 in the top three. And organic traffic is now our number one source of traffic. And most of that traffic is going to the landing pages that I built. Most of that traffic is entering the lead funnels that I built. And we're getting about 2,500 new leads through those lead funnels a month right now, all based off of organic traffic. So we've
Amazing.
built a really sustainable system. And so it enters whatever that, depending on the result, they enter a different email campaign. And then that will start like a 10 series email cycle, depending on all of these rules. If they bought, they exit at any time. If they don't, etc. So I don't even touch it really these days. I just monitor it. But yeah, it's procuring about 2,500 new leads for the company, and we just get notified whenever a purchase comes through. So I really learned digital marketing there, and I also was able to apply that back to my industry jump background, my no code background, and kind of help me figure out how I want to build an online business because I initially ran a production company, right? A service-based business. But running a service-based business is so different than running an online business. And I never learned that with Industry Jump. I didn't realize the importance of SEO or having a digital presence or your digital footprint, all that kind of stuff. So there was so many things coming together. With COVID, I had the time off to rethink things. I got a new job that allowed me to learn digital marketing really well. I had the time. Well, I actually didn't have the time because I was working full time. I have a 2-year-old daughter. I'm raising a family, and I was learning no code at
Lovely.
night and the weekends. So I didn't have the time, but I was making the time, right? And so now I'm 9 months into my no code journey, and I feel like I could do anything in no code at this point. But I've also been doing about 20 to 25 hours a week for the last 9 months on top of all of my other commitments. And it's not because I want I need to, or not because it's just because I want to.
Yeah.
Like I want to be doing this. Like I'm
Yeah.
so excited about it. That's all I can think about now. And so the thing with Jump Studios is remember I only was able to get 70% of the product to market, right? The other 30% was a project management platform. I really wanted to help content creators manage their video businesses because running that production company, there's so much of hiring, onboarding, payments, legality of
Hmm.
contracts, small business stuff that as filmmakers, we don't want to do. We just want to make films. And I always felt that pain of running that company. So it's like, if there's any way that we can help these filmmakers automate this process, make it more efficient and make it more scalable, then maybe we can make more projects and spend less time on the busy work. And so that's why I created Jump Studios. I already had an audience. We have over 57,000 on Instagram. We have 10,000 on a email list. We have a podcast to the marketers, to content creators. We have a big audience already. So I was like, if I do this and I put it through the Industry Jump brand, I think I can market it well to folks, right?
Hmm.
And so I had the interest to get going and the ambition and just the tenacity to build this. And it took about 4.5 months to get Jump Studios live, the V1. And so it took 2 years and $200,000 to get V1 of Industry Jump live on a full stack. And then with my second time around in no code, it took about 4.5 months and maybe $500 in server fees or everything and course fees, everything to get live with V1 for Jump Studios.
Insane.
And this time around, like it just gives me the ability to focus on the business. So like I put something together on Twitter the other day. It's a very simple dashboard that I created. I went in the bubble and I was like, what kind of KPIs do I want to monitor for my business? Well, I want to know how many users I have. I want to know how many videos they're uploading. I want to know what's that costing me on a server and encoding perspective to see what my average cost per user is running, and then compare that with to see what kind of margins I'm getting. And within 90 minutes, I built that entire dashboard to help me monitor the efficiency and the health of my business. And I never once had that with Industry Jump because I couldn't spend the time to pay someone to put that dashboard together, connect it with an SQL database, all that kind of stuff. I never had any insights into that. Even though we spent $200,000 on the tech stack, it just was out of the question. It was just too much money. It was too much of a luxury. But with no code, you can do things so quickly that it allows you to focus more on the business and less on just trying to make it work.
Oh man, that is just music to my ears from start to finish. I think that you are hitting so many points that kind of like encourage people to go towards no code, and I think that it's honestly it's inspirational because also the tenacity that you showed throughout those hard times is what defines great entrepreneurs, right? That ability to be like, I'm completely backed up against the wall. Like I feel like there are no solutions,
No
but
solutions.
I'm going to choose to double down on the work and double down on when
Learn
a lot
a
of
whole new
people,
skill, build a
it's
whole new
insane.
company.
So for some people listening, they're just going to think you're like, you're an anomaly, you're an alien. But the reality, I think, of what I'm hearing in this story is that basically just making the time, going, like making the time on a weekly basis. And also I love that idea of like, I put in X amount of time over 9 months. It's the same thing as going to gym. You don't do, you can't do 5 million push-ups and become ripped, right? But if you
Yeah.
do 100 push-ups a day for 9 months, you're going to be looking good, right? And I think it's like it probably comes from the fact that you passed the marshmallow test, like the marshmallow test, right? Where like,
I don't.
oh, you don't know? It's basically like, oh, can you like, you get a choice, you can have one marshmallow now, or you can have two marshmallows later. So like this idea of like, if you wait and you kind of like, like if you're patient and you're investing in the effort, then like you see more results later. So it's kind of like, are you a person who needs to have like instant gratification, or are you someone who believes in hard work and over like progress, it like wins the race, like slow and steady wins the race kind of thing. But I love that. So taking a step back, and you've inspired me again, like I'm constantly inspired by hearing these stories, and I hear so many awesome stories, but this one really resonates. like what is some of your advice when it comes to, and it doesn't have to be about like building the product,
Hmm.
like when it comes to just entrepreneurship overall, it seems like you've really overcome adversity and thrived actually in the face of adversity. Like what would be some of the things that you would like, what are some of your biggest learnings from your own path as an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
And then maybe we'll talk about like advice you might have for others.
Yeah. One of the things that I tell everybody is that you cannot start a business if you cannot do that business yourself. For example, I should never have started a tech business without knowing how to build the tech. And if that there's I guess one rule to that, unless you have a lot of money. Like unless you have a lot of money to get you 2, 3, 4 years without having to worry about it. But otherwise, you should not start a business that you can't control yourself because there's going to be a day where you run out of money. There's going to be a day where that main partner that you relied on either left or got sick, couldn't do it. And if you can't step in, then your business is done. And you can't bank everything on that. The only person that you can really trust as a solo founder is yourself. And then that's hard to say. And it's not great, but that's kind of the reality is if you're putting this all on the line as a solo founder, you need to be able to know that you can control your business and that you can weather the storms that are going to come, whether it's with you or partner or whatnot, but you need to be able to have that control yourself. So I would never have started a tech company in the beginning, knowing what I have known now, unless I had raised a lot more money or whatnot. So that's one thing. Another thing that I'd say is, we all think that like you build it once and you'll be good, but you know, in reality, it's almost like you're starting a monthly subscription. Like you build that MVP, and it's going to take you 6 months, and then that's just the beginning of 2 years of maintenance and updates and whatnot. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so you need to be ready for the long haul when you start this. And I'm not saying don't start this because this is probably the best journey that I've ever been on in life, besides being a dad and being a husband. But and the things that I've learned in during this journey of entrepreneurship and starting this business far beyond what I've learned in school and whatnot. So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying you need to be really reasonable with what you can expect in the short term and to make sure that you can weather that long term ride that it's going to be.
I love that. And you chose to do that by empowering yourself with skill sets, right? And with no code. And I think that's just a
Yeah.
really powerful message. It's and I think like you said it and you kind of, it seemed like you were like to kind of reframe it, it's more about like you literally invested in yourself.
Yeah.
You literally said, hey, like what if anything else, I can't control the exterior environment. What
Right.
I can control are my skill sets and my
Yeah.
ability to take action on the things that I want to build. And
Yeah.
I love that. I think that like that's what drove me towards entrepreneurship. Like my goal
Hmm.
was not to become to no code. My goal was not to become to know how to do no code or to build like software. My goal was like actually the goal of the company that I wanted
Yeah.
to do, right? And then
Yeah.
no code was just a means to those ends. And as you
Yeah.
said, like, you build one product, but guess what? You're going to have to adapt that product, change it, edit it,
Hmm.
have it evolve over time.
Yeah.
And I think what's powerful about what you say is like, and one of my learnings as well was like basically like, hey, like, you don't necessarily have to like do everything in your business, right? It's okay to
Yeah.
have partners. You don't always have to
Yeah.
be alone and solo, but you need to have a good understanding of every aspect of what's
Yeah.
happening so that you can at least step in and know enough to be dangerous or know enough
Yeah.
to be able to solve a problem. And also so that then you can hire people who are better at you at these things,
Yeah.
and then they can take care of that better than you do, right?
Yeah.
So, oh
But if
man,
one day and if they leave, you can still manage and control the business yourself. You don't
love
want
it.
to be in that spot where if everyone leaves, worst case scenario, and then it's like, I can't do anything with this,
Yeah.
you know? And it's at the point now where I think I'm going to rebuild Industry Jump on no code because what is the point of really fast enterprise technology if I can't do anything with it, if I can't adjust it to my customers' needs, if I can't really solve real problems with it? Just because it loads really quick and it looks beautiful and everything, that doesn't mean it's solving a problem. Doesn't mean it's going to be a good business, So I'm really close to like taking that $200,000 that I spent on this system and rebuilding it in no code, just because I know that if I do it, then I'll be able to make sure that I have a product to market that is solving real problems, that I can adjust to customers, that I can build a business around, that I can control. Because right now can't control anything with it, and it's the worst feeling ever.
I totally empathize with that feeling. And I think that this is I mean, also just your energy, you just have such a terrific energy, the way that you're
Mm.
telling these stories and being so honest and open about it. I think like that's what people need to hear more. We often hear these like overinflated headlines of tech companies making millions, raising
Yeah,
millions, exiting for billion with no revenue.
yeah.
Like it's not a good narrative. It's not a
Yeah,
good narrative for people to
it's
buy
not
into.
healthy.
Yeah, because then people just feel alienated. Not to mention
Yeah.
that the tech industry is already alienating the average person because they have all these different, like, the SDK and like all these things that make people think like, oh, I will not be able to learn this stuff. So I think that
Hmm.
like you really like are a living example of like, the kind of things that people can do. And I think that I would love now to like move away a little bit from what we're talking about now and do
Sure.
like a rapid fire.
Sure.
I want to do like a rapid fire. The first question is 3 marketing techniques for very, very early stage founders. What would you say, like the first 3 things, if you started a totally new company today, what 3 things would you put in place?
Um, if I'm starting a brand new company, I would launch a landing page before anything is built and to see if people like it. I would talk to as many people as I can and get surveys to see if that's working or not. And I would be as public about it as humanly possible. Being in stealth mode doesn't help you at all. Like I started in stealth mode because I had the best idea ever. I didn't want anyone to steal that idea, but that doesn't help you. Like you need to
Yeah.
get people to buy in on your story. You need to be relatable, and beyond that, like when I was first marketing Industry Jump, I was marketing it as a business. Like we are a big business, but people couldn't connect to that. When I started to connect or market Industry Jump as like, hey, I'm a filmmaker. I built this for other filmmakers. We're trying to help this industry like grow and revolutionize. That's when I really started to connect with my audience. So to be quickly and frank, be very public about it and just be just human relatable about it. Don't need to put up a huge shell. Just let people know like who you are and why you're doing it.
Yeah. Man, music to my ears. So now, like, I guess existential advice for startup founders, people, aspiring startup founders. Let's say you're, in university, you know that eventually you kind of want to get into this world of like entrepreneurship. What would be advice for those people?
You can start a tech business without having any tech at all. So, a quick story. I was raising money with another founder, and all he had was a landing page on the front end, and it was like a talent finder, right? You would be connected with talent for models and whatnot. But on the back end, it was just a spreadsheet. It was literally just a spreadsheet of everybody that he contacted, right? And so he would manually put together all that talent and send it back to them, and they got to $300,000 in revenue and raised a whole lot more based off of that tech. So you can start a business without any tech at all. It's really about the business, about the idea, about the supply and demand, solving problems. So don't get worried about the tech. First, make sure that you have a business that's worth building and a problem that's worth solving, and then figure out how you're going to do that with tech.
Amen. Amen.
Hmm. Hmm.
So before I get into the last question of this interview, where can people find you? Where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, so on Instagram at JJ Englert, and then I just started being active on Twitter at JJ Englert as well. I actually am really loving Twitter these days. I think it has a great startup community, great no code community. I'm actually learning a lot on Twitter that I didn't think I would ever just go to Twitter to learn, but I'm learning a lot on Twitter. So connect with me in either of those. Always feel free to check me out on Industry Jump. You can see my filmmaker profile there. You can reach me through JumpStudios.io. Always looking to make new connections and to grow my no code community.
That is amazing. So now for the last question, which is, taking a step back from all of this stuff, what's the influence that you want to have in your life on this world? And this is obviously a super loaded question.
Yeah.
So you can just give us a couple drops of what's on your mind today without having to have it all figured out.
Yeah. I think I would want to go back to my original root, which is I want to have a positive impact on people on a long lasting thing. So if I could do that through software and if I can help them save an hour of their day, and they could spend that hour with their kids or their family doing what they really love, then that would be really valuable to me. And the more people that I could do that with, the happier I think I would be. So I would just want to build stuff that allows people to do more of what they want to do, and at the same time make sure that I'm doing more of what I want to do as well.
I love that. Well, amen to that. If you haven't already, go and check out both of his startups. They are absolutely incredible. So that is,
Thank you.
again, JumpStudios.io
.io.
and IndustryJump.com, or is it .io?
Yep.
.com. There you go. Thank you so much for joining us for this show. And for you, my friend, thanks for sharing your incredible story. I cannot wait to publish this interview. People are going to absolutely love it.
I hope
Take care, and thanks for everyone who's watching.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.